My admiration for Marcelo Bielsa is huge, the best coach in the world.
I want to say that I love Marcelo because he's like my dad, the manager that inspired me.
From what I can gather from people who know Bielsa, he saw in Leeds something similar to what he saw in Newell's Old Boys, a club who remember him so fondly that they named their stadium after him, and I think he felt that there was a project here that he could get involved in, and Bielsa watched every single minute of Leeds Championship season last year, almost 80 hours of footage, and because of that, as soon as the officials from the club went to meet him in Argentina, he was able to tell them which players he rated, which players he didn't. He was able to tell them how they were going to play, and crucially was able to define the core of the squad that he wanted to keep. In Bielsa's opinion, the job at Leeds was there to be taken. It was a job he wanted to do. Bielsa's football has always relied on a number of key principles. Positive aggression on the ball, the high press, which is fundamental to the way his teams have always played. Players attacking in a way which overloads the opposition in key areas of the pitch and gives his teams an attacking advantage. An open, expansive football in the way that has become a modern trend. And the one thing you know with Bielsa is that he will never ever break from his style of play. He'll go down with it if he has to. Some of the performances have been unlike a lot of what you see in the Championship. They've been open, they've been fluent, they've been very ambitious and very aggressive in the sense of all-out attack really, and short, high-risk passing in tight areas, and the fluency of it has been extremely impressive. And it has to be said that there does feel like a big difference between the football we're seeing now under Bielsa and the football we saw under Thomas Christiansen 12 months ago, even though the league position and the results are essentially the same. Pre-season became effectively 12-hour days. The players were in at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. They were leaving the training ground sometime after 7, 8 o'clock at night, sometimes triple sessions during the day. Bielsa didn't go as far as he had at Lille, where he asked the French club to build accommodation at their training ground before the start of his first and only season there. He wanted to have facilities that meant that the players could sleep at the training ground if necessary, because that's how intense the training was. But he felt that the players had to be in the right physique to play the way that he wanted. He wanted them to be as light as possible, and he has pushed them right from the very start. Somebody like Mauricio Pochettino at Tottenham, the evidence of Bielsa's influence is definitely there in the way that they play, but with more organisation than the fabled 3-3-1-3 formation that Bielsa came up with in Argentina. The rotation of players, the way in which he would use midfielders as centre-backs, the way in which he would adapt players to play in multiple positions if they needed to. With somebody like Diego Simeone, again, rather than the actual style of football, but Simeone liked his intensity. He loved the attention to detail of his training, and I think that more than anything is what he took from it. But with Guardiola, I think you probably have the closest match to Bielsa in terms of attitude and a bit of a kindred spirit in the way that he sees the game, the importance that he places on high-risk tactics, and also the way in which Guardiola commits absolutely to one style of play and one style of play only. That has been Bielsa's mindset from the very start. It could be said that there is at Bilbao. His first season there was as good a season as that club have had in a long time. Played nigh on 60 matches with a very small squad, which is Bielsa's way. And there was a definite downturn in their league form towards the end of that season, but it could certainly be said that under the pressure of the number of fixtures they had, it was always going to go that way. And in a number of his other jobs, he literally hasn't stayed around long enough to draw a conclusion on that. What you can say is that Bielsa pushes the players to the nth degree. You could draw very easily a picture of a loose cannon, a volatile coach who is at risk of going off at any stage, but I actually think it's more complex than that with Bielsa. At Bilbao, he was unhappy with the speed of the development of the training ground, which was undergoing renovations, and at one point was involved in a physical altercation with one of the contractors, one of the builders at the training ground. At Lazio, 2 days as manager before it became clear to him that the transfer targets who he'd spoken to the club about, who the club had agreed to chase, were not in the offing and didn't look like coming off at any stage. At Marseille, he lost key players after his first season in that summer. There were arguments over his contract, disagreements. And again at Lille, an old colleague of his was ill in South America. He wanted to go back and visit him. Lille deemed that an unauthorised visit, said he didn't have permission to go, and he was suspended. He was then sacked. What you start to understand is that in the main, the disagreements and the arguments have been over football and purely football matters. if it was to implode at Leeds, he'd be following quite a fine tradition over the past 15 years. It certainly wouldn't be unique to him, and he wouldn't be the first coach who'd run aground at this club. But even if that happened, I still think there would be a feeling that, without any question, it was worth the effort, it was worth the risk, because of his reputation, because of what he's done in the past, because of the regard that he is held in by other coaches. There is a risk, there is a gamble. He's someone who is difficult to keep happy, but I think you know that when he signs the contract.